Good morning and happy Wednesday to all of you wonderful Facebook viewers. It is another Workforce Wednesday episode here with MBRT, and I am your wonderful state program manager, Annalisa Sawyers, and today I am co-hosting with our Caroline County Next Generation coordinator, Miss Morgan Cox. So say hello to Morgan, everyone. Good morning, Morgan.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And how are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I'm excited to talk about our topic today.
Yes, likewise. This is something that is near and dear to both of our hearts because we both majored in this specific area, and that is broadcast communication. And we are so honored to have with us the wonderful and just bubbly Mr. Shane Walker, who is a radio personality at WBOC. Did I say that correctly, Shane? Uh-oh, is Shane still there? We may have lost connectivity with Shane for a second, but I'm sure he'll be able to get back on with us. But I'm sure he can hear us, hopefully. If not, Shane, just kind of give us a ding or something and let us know. But we're here to talk about communications today. It's a field that, again, as I said, Morgan and I both were lucky enough to major in, and we both, I think, found it to be widely interesting and kind of just like it's kind of like really comprehensive in terms of it has so much to offer, and there's so many different parts of communications that a lot of people don't know about. And so that's what we want to talk about today. So I think until we can get Shane back on, Morgan and I can kind of give you a little bit of insight on it. I'll start with myself, and then I'll kind of pass it off to Morgan and kind of let her talk a little bit about her experience with it. So I majored in broadcast journalism with a concentration in radio, TV, and film. And I got my degree from Clark Atlanta University. Go Panthers! Woo! And my specific area of expertise was television broadcasting. I just knew I was going to be on the news or doing sports broadcasting. That's really what I wanted to do. And it seemed like it would be pretty easy. But as I kind of dove into the major and started learning all of the particulars behind it, I found it to be wildly interesting. What about you, Morgan?
So I received my degree from Randolph-Macon College in Virginia, and I majored in communication studies because my school was a little bit of a smaller school. We didn't have full breakouts of within that degree, but I did pick up a minor in journalism. So my focus was more towards the public relations and journalism side of communications, and a little bit of event planning as well. But a lot of that has to all of those topics kind of interweave with each other and still can focus on that journalism speaking to the public aspect of communications.
So I know like what my journey was, and I'll kind of defer for a moment and let you talk. How did you kind of get interested in this?
Well, that was one thing that I always knew I wanted to study communications. Mostly because I knew growing up that I like to talk. So I figured communications was the best way to go. I honestly wasn't sure about my minor. I studied a variety of different things and ended up, after being in the communications department for so long, I loved doing the presentations. I loved getting up in front of my class and having speeches, writing speeches, whatever the case may be. And I ended up I looked at political science a little bit, and I also looked at sociology, but I ended up picking up that journalism minor right at the end of my college career because I just loved the aspect of writing. I loved sharing stories, telling other people's stories, and connecting with the community in that aspect.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that you said ring really true for me. I love to talk as well. So I honestly, was kind of like, I didn't know what to do with that. Of course, kind of growing up, everyone was like, oh, you should go into theater because you love to talk. And I was like, yeah, but for me, I kind of saw theater as something that was almost like an overly saturated area. Like everybody's not going to be able to be on TV, and everyone's not going to be able to, make the millions of dollars that we assumed, actors made. And so I was like, well, how else can I kind of use this talent? And it was so weird. No judgments here. When I was 15, I wrote into the new Mickey Mouse Club because it was a show that they had on, and they said they had this segment called What I Want to Be. And I was like, okay, I see everyone writing in about things that were pretty typical, like, doctors and lawyers. And I was like, let me write in and say I want to be a news broadcaster. Not what I wanted to do, or so I thought. wrote in, got a wonderful opportunity to spend the day with a local Chicago ABC affiliate anchor, Linda Yu, who actually is still on air now. Got a chance to spend a day with her to see what it was like to actually be a broadcaster, like literally going out, doing doing a story, actually writing script, standing up, doing B-roll, like the whole thing. And I was like, this is pretty darn cool. And so at the end of the day, even though that's not what I wanted to do when I wrote the letter, I was like, this is something I could actually see myself doing. Went to school, and luckily the school that I went to while I was in school, the Olympics were being held in Atlanta coming up in '96. And so the Olympic Committee used our school as part of the host broadcasting program. So we got all of the top of the line equipment. So being able to have that experience really kind of solidified for me that this is something that I was interested in. And I always was, gifted at writing and things like that. So I was like, that's pretty cool. I could do this. And like I said, it was just like one of the best experiences that I could have had. I actually got a chance to do a local sports show while I was there. So that was pretty cool. But it definitely kind of just said, this was something I could use my skill set with, aside from just talking, that I thought would be really cool. So yeah, like it's kind of like one of those things, you took what you were naturally gifted in and kind of applied it to be able to kind of get through school. Because I know for probably a lot of students, they're like, after high school, they're like, 4 more years of school, what am I going to do? What am I going to major in? And it's finding those things that you are naturally gifted in or that you have a genuine interest in that helps you be able to pick a pretty good course of study and then navigate those next 4 or more years that, can be college. So, yeah. So what do you think some of the skill sets are that we need for this particular industry?
Well, I definitely think communication skill is at the top. Being able to speak and communicate well with people is super important. Also having that, having a background in, doesn't necessarily have to be news broadcasting, but just being familiar with the different areas within the communication field. Because obviously when you think communications, you think broadcasting, you think, TV, you think the news, when it can be a variety of other things like radio personality or, working behind the scenes in the communications field or working at a news station, something like that. So just knowing of the variety of different avenues you could take, I think is not necessarily a skill, but something important to keep in mind. What's another skill you think of?
I definitely think the ability to listen as well, especially when you're having to write your own stories. A lot of times people don't realize when you're starting out as a reporter, a lot of times you're responsible for doing your own stories. That's writing your own script, going out into the field, especially in the smaller markets. So being able to really listen to those key points to package that story into a small amount of time that a lot of people, don't realize, it's kind of difficult because you probably spend, in excess of maybe 30 minutes or more with a person and you're actually learning about, that story. Oh, I think we have a guest with us now.
Hi.
Hello.
Boy, that was fun. Good morning.
Absolutely.
That was all planned to show that there's no such thing as a typical day in broadcasting. That's
you make our
flexibility. That was a skill I was about to say too.
Absolutely. Well, we've been filling the time, but before I kind of tell you what we've been talking about, again, everyone, welcome. We have Shane Walker, radio personality with WVOC. Welcome, Shane.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this. This is exciting. This is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be wonderful if our internet stays. So we'll see what happens. Yay.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being, diligent and getting on with us. And for those of you that are kind of wondering what's going on, I'm in our office. We've got some people moving behind us. So pay attention, as they said in the Wizard of Oz. Don't pay no attention to that man behind the screen. So pay no attention to the people behind you. So yes, so Shane, we're gonna be respectful of your time again, and thank you again so much for joining us and working through the technical difficulties. So Morgan and I kind of touched a little bit on a couple of questions that we prepped for you, but we'll still give you an opportunity to answer those. So we'll start off with the basics. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, where you work, all that good stuff.
Okay, my name's Shane Walker. As Annalisa mentioned in the intro, I work for WBOC. We have a radio division. They purchased the group of radio stations that I'd been a part of for 15 years, about 3 years ago. So I've been doing radio about 30 years now. So it's the only thing I know how to do, which is frightening and exciting all at the same time. Right now, I host what's called Afternoon Drive. That's one of our day parts on the radio. Afternoon Drive is for me, it's 2 until 7, and it's on our modern country radio station, Chesapeake Country 1063. I get to play music. I get to talk about what's happening in the music world. We are big on local. So I talk about, with the COVID going on right now, it's a little bit different. We usually get to talk about cool stuff like spaghetti dinners and fire department fried chickens and carnivals and that kind of thing. It's not really going on right now. So we're taking some time on the air to make sure we say thank you to essential workers, to educators. We talk to them on the air sometimes. Hey, how are you guys doing? What's your plan? How are you holding up? That kind of thing. And just try to have as much fun as possible. Bring a little brightness into people's days and some cool tunes, and just kind of hang out and have fun. That's the in front of the scenes stuff, if there is, for radio. And behind the scenes, we've got 5 radio stations in our group. 4 of them are here on the mid shore, in and around the Cambridge area, and I kind of help keep them running, keep them on the air, make sure all the stuff except for the internet is working, and just help out my boss as much as possible. So it's fun and generally not much of a typical day, which is good, because that would be boring.
There we go. I don't know about you, Morgan, but as he's speaking, I'm kind of like virtually closing my eyes, and I can like hear his voice. You have an amazing radio voice.
I have an even more amazing radio face. So thank you for that. It's much better if we do this and you don't see me. It's so much better for everybody. Now you get the full radio voice experience, and you don't have to see all of this.
Oh, stop it! But no, like it's. I mean, as people say, it's so velvety and smooth, and I can like hear you during your 2 to 7 broadcast. But that's amazing. So yeah, well, thank you for sharing that with us. I think Morgan has a question for you.
Absolutely. So I know that that your division is within WBOC. What role do you play within, obviously, radio, but what kind of behind the scenes things, or what does your job entail that maybe the average person might not know? A lot of people know radio for, of course, listening into the radio, playing music, being a DJ. What else goes into that?
Well, I like to, I work with my boss on picking the music that we're going to play. We get to have a bit of control over that. We're not corporate. So you don't have somebody who has no idea what they're doing, as most of the big companies do, programming 100 country stations for one company. We have ours, and my boss and I work on, what are we going to play? We look at the charts, we take a listen to some stuff, and we'll send each other, I really like this one. No, I really like this one. No, I like this one. Also, I'm the boss, so he gets to pick what we end up playing on the radio. So there's that. There are, decisions to be made as to what's going to go on the air. As I alluded to a moment ago, with COVID-19 now, we can't go forth with, it's hard to say, hey, there's going to be a spaghetti dinner at the Good Counsel of Church and Secretary, and then come back with, oh, that's been canceled, because that's no fun. That's negative. We try to keep the negative out. So planning how the programming is going to go based on what's happening in the world, being really flexible with what's happening in the world. If we've lost some country artists as of late, so we've had to change programming a little bit to make sure that we highlight them and we remember them. But it's also working with my engineer to make sure if there's a problem at one of our facilities, that he can help us out. Sometimes thunderstorms hit and we have a lightning strike. I live no more than 3 miles from any of our facilities, so I'm in the car and going to fix it and get stuff back on the radio if I'm able to, and it's working with all of So I know people, when they listen to the radio, hear those commercials. I get to sometimes make them if they're already pre-recorded. I get to go ahead and just put them in the computer so that they're on the radio. Learning stuff like computers. There's radio has evolved so much. When I got in it, when I was a little bitty baby DJ, it was done one way, and then computers started to work their way in, and automation systems started working their way in, and ways to record stuff. So there's a lot of constant learning. There's a lot to make sure that you stay in the know about. And communications are really important with that. You ask members of the team. You can't be afraid to be the old guy in the room and go to the young cat down the road. Can you help me find the button to turn it on? It's, you have to be able to communicate and kind of think, you're not above asking for help. So there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot more. And I had the misconception when I started 100 years ago that you walked in, you did your 4 on the air, and you were out the door again. There's a lot that goes into it.
Well, I mean, you said something a little earlier that you've been doing this for, if I heard you correctly, and I don't think you're being honest with us on that point, but you said you've been doing this for 30 years. What, like, that's amazing. Like, Morgan and I kind of shared a little bit prior to about our experiences, but how and when did you know that this is exactly what you wanted to do and that you wanted to go into radio broadcasting or into journalism in general?
Okay, when I was 9 years old, which I just now gave away my age. Great. So I would listen to a particular radio station and a particular announcer. She did middays on the station where I used to live growing up. And I really liked listening to her, and she was talking about being at a live broadcast. And I thought, oh, that would be kind of cool to go and meet her. And so Mom's like, hey, well, let's go. So we went over, and I walked on up, and I said, if you ever need a kid's voice for commercials, please give me a call. And they did. And here we are. Fast forward 30 years. That's how I got started. And so I would do commercials. I would do voiceover work. I was the station mascot for a while. That's when the therapy started, and which is okay. And then when I was 14, you get to that point where you start to look for a job, and Mom, again, more therapy. She said, hey, why don't you give the radio station a call and see if they have a shift open. Go ahead. And I did, and they did, and that was back when radio was live and manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So overnights, I learned how to be on the radio, learned what to do, learned what not to do, as much as that can be taught. Not everything can be taught, and I'm not saying that I have whatever gift is required to be a successful radio announcer, but there are truly certain things that cannot be taught. And I was, shown how to push the buttons and turn the knobs and kind of figured out the rest. And, thank goodness for overnights, because that's when you get to make all the mess ups and the boo-boos. And God bless people who work third shift in the hospital, because, boy, they heard a lot of really bad radio for a good summer there. But and it just went from there, and I got to do all kinds of different. I got to do news. I got to do afternoon drive on a 50,000 watt radio station. When I was 15, 16 years old. So that was kind of cool. Do some nights, and just kind of absorbed as much as I could from everybody who was on the staff, people in management, ownership. Just tried to learn as much as I could. I was a real pest. Hung out all the time, and that's how it started. It's very unconventional. I
love that. I think that it's important to hear that you kind of had to get your foot in the door, and that's how you formed your career, which virtually answered my next question. But you mentioned that you kind of worked in a couple of different areas, like with news and obviously with the music side of it. What was your favorite position within the organization?
I really dig working with the music side and deciding what's going to be put on the radio, designing what songs are going to be played where, if that makes sense. You say you're not just going to play all new stuff all the time. You play something that's brand new here. What you do when you're programming radio is you take back in the day, we had these circular clocks, right? They weren't all digital; they were circular, and you broke them down. Annalisa, you'll dig this from CNN, right? You know, you have the 60-minute clock, and you break it down by second, practically.
Yep.
And you say, okay, at this point in the hour, we're going to play this. At this point in the hour, we're going to say this. So you're developing formatics. Okay, how is each hour going to work? And it'll change from morning drive to middays when people are listening a lot at work, to afternoon drive, to nighttime, to overnight. So it's going to change. So getting to design and build a radio station is fun. When WBOC came in, we took one of our stations and we flipped it to a brand new format and built a radio station from scratch. I'd never been in on that before.
Wow.
My boss and I work very, very differently. We had never worked together in this market before, even though we knew of each other. And I will out him. He is a last minute under pressure guy, and he admitted it to me after 2 weeks of me sitting at my desk going, "Oh my gosh, he hasn't sent me this," and "Oh my gosh, we haven't talked about this," and "How are we in the world are we gonna?" So yeah, I'm pretty good under pressure, and I like to work last minute. Okay, that would have been good to know. And it came together, and we flipped the switch, and everything hit on time and launched beautifully. And it was a ton of fun. So there's been, gosh, man, there's been so much that's just been fun. Interviewing artists, getting to meet them backstage, bringing them out on stage for concerts, talking to them on the phone. It's crazy cool, man.
It sounds like there are so many different components to the job and to the industry. And I know probably a lot of people don't naturally take that into consideration when they're hearing someone on the radio or they're seeing someone doing an interview. They probably think it's just, oh, you get in front of a mic and you just talk. But there's so many other little components that go into making a broadcast successful, whether it's on TV or whether it's on the radio. So in that regard, what are some skill sets that you think are like vitally important or crucial to be able to be successful in this industry?
Know when to close your mouth. To be completely honest with you, I get people who, and I've had it my entire career, "Oh, I'd be great on the radio. I love to talk." Yeah, gee, no. Know when to stop. You know, don't overplay the bit. Don't ask the same question 3 different times in one breath. Listen. Okay, and trust your gut. Know when this isn't working, this isn't feeling right. Let's bail. Let's get out of it. Let's find, and you got to pay attention to all that early on so that you don't continue to do it throughout your career. Okay, okay, here's I want to talk about what's on our website right now with the latest news updates on COVID-19. Here are the 3 things that I want to hit. Boom, boom, boom. I know how I'm going to get in. I know how I'm going to get out. Here at the bottom of the hour, I got a quick talk over. I want to make sure I say thank you to the teachers who are working hard in our community to put together the next 2021 school year. What are they going to do? Are they going to go back virtual? Are they going to just appreciate them for what they're doing? And do a little bit of music news right here. Jason Aldean just built a new house. He's got his buddy Kane Brown coming over. They had a tattoo party. Let's talk about that. Play a little bit of audio. So you're planning ahead, and you're planning ahead. You're doing what's now, and there's a little part of you in the back that's ready to pounce if everything goes wrong at the very last minute, and you got to fix it and then get back into like this morning, and then you got to jump back into it. So you're ready to spring into action, but you kind of try to keep things going smoothly at the same time, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But being able to, we've said flexibility a bunch of times now. You got to be flexible, and you gotta be willing to be taught. You've got to be willing to accept criticism. Hopefully you get constructive criticism, but you've got to be willing to take criticism as well, and be willing to grow and to learn. No matter how many years you have in the business, you can still learn stuff, and that's huge. That's pushing the buttons and turning the knobs. That's easy. Anybody can do that. You can be taught how to do that. But it's developing yourself as an individual and as a craftsman. That's what's really important.
So I know that we mentioned earlier that there typically you don't have the same day. Like days don't look the same. What does look the same each day, or you work typically the afternoon hours of your show. What do you do outside of those hours that you're not live?
Yeah, we have right now the 4 stations. We have 5 total, as I mentioned. 4 of them are based in the Midshore area, and those are the ones that I'm hands-on with on a daily basis. And they're split amongst 2 buildings, and 1, 2, 3 different transmitter sites where the stuff actually goes out on the radio. So I split my days between the 2 studios, 2 stations in one, 2 stations in another, making sure that everybody's on the air. First of all, is it on the air? Is it on time? Okay, great. Prepping for my show, which is being done a little bit differently now. We make sure that we don't share the building with anybody else, just to make sure everybody is safe and healthy. So, hey, I'm going to be in the building at such and such a time. Get out, and vice versa. Anybody else which isn't very many. Most of our people are working from home. Company's been incredible, providing equipment and setup and all that kind of stuff for all the departments, sales, and traffic, and advertising, and the on-air people too. So I generally don't really have to kick too many people out. But just making sure that we're safe. The commercial production part, I go back to that. That's a big part of it too. That's where we make our money. So I'm all about helping out on that side of it. There's also a traffic component, and it's different than what you're thinking. Traffic is the scheduling of commercials and music and putting them together to make the next day's schedule. So I do that for a couple of our stations, work with the traffic director and the music director to make sure everything is put together. And so at midnight, we have a radio station on the air the next day. And other than that, it's I have a public affairs show on Sunday mornings, so which is totally different than the music show. It's a news based, but for this area program, questions, answers, that kind of thing. So I'm working on guests for that. There's paperwork to be done for that for the FCC. So we got to make sure that all of that is in order. If there are live broadcasts, generally I do those. Had one Saturday at a tire and auto repair place. So you plan for that. You work with the account executive who is going to be there making the broadcast happen. You work with the producers back in the studio to make sure that they're all set for the day. Yeah, there's just there are lots of moving parts that happen behind the scenes. And I try to get involved in as much of it as I possibly can, which makes me look cool to the employers. But then when something goes wrong, you can hear collectively everyone just go, Shane. And then the phone will ring and I will say, yes, I'm on it. I'm working on it. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm sure we all kind of experience those types of moments in our respective professions. So we're here with you, man. We're here with you.
All right. Awesome.
All right. So I heard you mention a couple of different things that, you've had, this great career that we've talked about, and you talked about some of the things that you've experienced, but I know it's probably hard to kind of pin down one specific area, but what's like your favorite part of the job?
Oh man. Might be able to answer that with an anecdote if I may. Oh Lord, not another anecdote. Years ago, we have an AM station, and years ago it was what we called music of your life. It was like big band, swing music, and all that stuff. But it was back in the day when that was a big format. We were able to execute what's called block programming. So you'd have music, and then middays from like 10 to 3, you'd have different talk shows. And we had a talk show on the air. It's called Caring Connections, and it had to do with mental health and behavioral health and addiction and defeating the stigma behind all of it. And that met a wonderful friend through it. We've been really close ever since. And we did a show. I happened to interview her. We did a show after Robin Williams passed away. When he took his life, we did a show about suicide and about the stigma behind having addictions and mental health issues, and how the stigma has got to stop. It has got to go away. It is okay to have some things that you say I need help with, and it's okay to ask for that help. And we did this great interview together, put it on the radio, and a couple of days after it aired, I was getting ready to leave the building, and I was doing mornings at the time. I was doing mornings on the radio at one of our stations. And I was about to leave for the day, and receptionist came in and said, "There's a lady here to talk to you." And she came in and she said, I wanted to say thank you for talking about mental health and suicide." And she said, I've been feeling some kind of way, and I thank you guys for taking the time to talk about it, and I was able to get some help, and I'm feeling better now.
Oh,
So, yeah,
Wow.
that was pretty wild.
that
That was
is,
pretty wild, and
that's amazing.
it's amazing, doing an interview and going hanging out backstage with Melissa Etheridge before she put on one of the best concerts I've ever seen is also amazing. But they're different types of amazing, and it's been a blessing to have that be a part of my life. Um, that stands out as a big moment, and I hope I never forget that, and it helps keep you grounded, and really it's beneficial in other parts of my life too, to know that made a difference to somebody, and that's what we can do in this business. It's not about just the latest Luke Combs record. It's about that thank you to a teacher, or to a sanitation worker, or to a frontline worker might be what they need to get through that day. And I don't go into it thinking that I'm going to say thank you and it's going to make this. That's not the point of it, but it just might do it for somebody, and that's the important stuff.
I think
Absolutely.
it's really neat to share too, because because a lot of people might not consider that, like thinking about a career in the news or in journalism or in the broadcasting field, especially nowadays, there's a lot of flack that comes along with it. But being able to show that you are making a direct impact, even just, radio too, I think that's amazing to consider that what you do is directly impacting. I know we all get into our cars and immediately the radio comes on. So we're all listening to it. So to hear that you're reaching that many people, and especially I know it feels good for you too, I'm sure, to get the feedback, because sometimes you're just speaking to the world and you don't know if anybody's listening. But that's amazing.
I was going to say something before you answer that question. I just wanted to piggyback on it. I was just going to say that's something I'm so glad that Shane spoke on, that social responsibility that goes with these types of positions that a lot of times, and I'm sorry, the phone's ringing here in the office behind me, that social responsibility that goes along with the position, because when you say something, you literally are reaching the masses. And it's being responsible about what you're saying, about how you're saying it even. And I know that there are different platforms that people kind of are free to kind of say some things that might not be the moral majority's opinion on things. And there's room for that, I'm sure, as well. But as you said, taking the responsibility of knowing that your words have impact, that you are potentially helping people, whether you are looking for the gratitude or not. Those are the things that I think, as you said, are the rewards that a lot of people don't see as rewards, but they are. I'm sure, like you said, hanging out, backstage with the artists and, kind of rubbing elbows with the elitists, all, seems to be well and great, but it's those things where you're able to kind of firsthand really see the impact that you're making on your listening public that probably are, immeasurable. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your question.
No, that was a really great question. It's awesome to do. What we get a lot of, especially in country music, there are a lot of songs about our veterans and patriotism for our country, and we'll get, hey, my son is coming home and he served in Afghanistan and he loved this song, can you play this? Or then there's the other side, I lost my closest friend and this was their favorite song and it reminds me of them, can you please play that for them? And you're, oh my god, yes, sure, I'll get it right on. So you do, but you get to, you I don't know, you come across as I'm just a regular dude just hanging out with you. I just happen to be on the radio. You happen to do what it is you do, and I can't do what you do. So thank God for you doing what you do. And I'm happy to play your song. And if I can, it's a privilege to be invited into someone's life, because I don't like to highlight it, but there are like these buttons on the radio that say seek and tune and scan. So you don't have to listen to my radio station when I'm on. You should. You really, really. But you don't have to. And when people make that choice to do so, it's really special.
Awesome. So Shane, what in your career so far has been your biggest accomplishment?
Oh man, I don't know. Not fired lately is awesome. That's really cool. I think it's developing relationships and partnerships has been cool. It's as of late it's something I've been able to use in my second job, which is kind of cool. But getting to be a part of a community and being involved in the community's growth and getting to know people who are on the political level without getting political, getting to know people in the business community and being supportive of them. There's a balance to it, but you can throw support people's way, which we kind of talked about already. When they need it, you can talk about what's happening in the community without adding any bias to it. You can be positive and talk about a new business that's opening up, or hey, such and such business is doing this. Really cool way for them to be involved in the community. Somebody may not dig that business, but they may dig what they're doing in the community, and may come around a little bit to say, hey, you know what, that's really cool. I want to do the same thing with my business. So I think it's becoming an established member of the community, and being somewhat respected and being invited to be parts of the growth of that community is pretty excited with different nonprofits and businesses. And there's it's pretty cool. I don't feel like I answered that very well, but that's what I got.
You did great. And we're going to be like totally respectful of your time. We've only got a few more questions. Well, thank you. So, question I have for you. This kind of goes more so to your company as a whole. So we know that there's all of these things that are behind the scene that go on. What are some other jobs or careers, specifically at WBOC, or even just in general, that that are available, and kind of like what are the roles of those positions? Like if you hear someone say that they're a director or a producer at a radio station, what does that mean, and what do they do exactly?
Well, producer at a radio station, the in-house term is generally called board op, or a board operator. But a producer, when I go out to do a live broadcast, they're the ones who are back at the station, pushing the buttons and turning the knobs to get me and my connection, whatever I'm using, be it a cell phone or a computer connection, from the location through the studio on the radio. That's their job, making sure the commercials are played, making sure the music is playing, the radio station is running, and they're adding me as a part of it. So that's their primary job in that role. They may produce the Sunday morning church run and public affairs run on our AM station, and that's bringing in a live church service one week. Maybe it's the Sunday school class that's coming in earlier in the hour. They're making that connection happen, making sure the commercials get played. All comes back to the commercials, and then there's the TV side, and there's the newscast producers, and that's I walk by on occasion the newsroom or the studio and the director's studio, and it's insane. You've got so many people working to make a newscast happen, and they're pointing and they're talking and they're shouting, and the anchors are interacting with them, and I'm just watching it going, oh my god, thank goodness for radio. I don't know how they do it. It's insane. So there are those. There are the hands-on people that are actually making it happen. Okay, of course there are the on-air people. We've got a great team all around radio and TV. There are account representatives. Okay, they're the ones that go out and sell the airtime, which is very difficult to do because air is intangible. You can't grab it and touch it and feel it and go, oh yes, I like it, I would like to buy it. You've really got to sell yourself as an account representative first to say, hey, trust me when I take your money, and say that it's going to bring people through your business's doors. Okay, so there's that, and they have a knack for it. They are incredible at it. It's a very hard job, and I take my hat off to them for being able to do it. There are the creative side of people who make the commercials. Who for TV is super involved. We've got our teams that do that for radio as well. Um, so there are the photogs, there are the editors, there are a lot of different roles that can be played. What's cool about WBOC is, especially on the TV side that I've seen, is we get a lot of college graduates and a lot of journalism school graduates that come in. WBOC is recognized all across the country. Okay, we're good. We're really good. We got some, they invest a lot in the product at the company. We're very blessed to be able to have some nice resources, and they believe in investing in the company. So you are going to school, or you're leaving a gig across the country, and you hear about WBOC, and you know about them, and you come all the way out here from the West Coast, and you spend time here. You sign your contract, and you get to learn a whole lot, and you're taught. You're molded without being forced. You know what I mean? You're not being, this is the way, you must do it, but do it this way and you will have success, if that makes sense. So it's a great place for people to learn, and we have people that come in and they learn, and then they go off to other markets, and we're certainly happy to see them do that. And then we have people who have our anchor Steve Hammond has been with us for many years, and he is the face of WBOC news, especially in the afternoon and the evening. Everybody, if Steve Hammond says it, you know what, I'm going to trust it, and I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to say, okay. So we have, a place for people to establish themselves and to grow and to develop that trust in the community. So it's an awesome company. We just hired a bunch of people, so we have opportunities. They are out there, and certainly easily accessible on this cool internet thing. You can always look us up and see what we have.
Well, cool. Before Morgan gets to our final question, I just want to say I'm glad that you said that. In our comment section, you should be seeing some links that'll pop up in a second that give some additional background information on what job descriptions look like, also about salary information across the field in broadcasting. So for anyone that's interested in learning more, please feel free to click on those links to learn more about some of the things that Shane has expressed to you, and especially now since he's saying that there's growth and there's potential and there's opportunity that are available right now in this industry. This is a great time, as he said, because things are a little bit more virtual right now. So you have an opportunity to really kind of investigate and look into this if this is something that sounds like it's interesting to you. So I'm going to hand it back over to Morgan. She's got, I think, one final question before we, wrap up for today. So Morgan, take it away.
Yeah. So speaking of the students and speaking of those out there who may be interested in pursuing a career within the communications field or media in general, what advice do you have for them?
Should I answer honestly, or no? I'm kidding. Listen, it's an ever-changing industry. Okay, it's an ever-changing industry. So go into it and know that I have. With WBOC, I'm very fortunate. Okay, a lot of broadcast companies right now, thank you, COVID, are cutting people. They have furloughed people, they have laid people off, they have found ways to get around having people in the building and on the air. They have found ways to do it with automation, and that's really scary and it's really sad. Okay, so research your company first of all. Research where you are looking to go. Check out their Facebook page and their personalities that are on the air. See if there's interaction with their personalities, and maybe try to catch up with them and say, hey, I'm looking to come here. Tell me honestly what you think about this place. Develop some sort of a relationship with them, but do your homework first of all. Trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right when you walk in, talk to them, sit down, have the interview, but pay close attention. But know that it can change. It can change very, very quickly. We see a lot in radio. People will they move their families a lot if something like this happens and they no longer have a job. And I've known it to happen to people that have just bought a house and have just had a baby, and then they got to pack up, and dad has to go because dad's the one on the air, so he's got to go out to the Midwest and get established and try to save some money before they can bring the rest of the family out there, and it's heartbreaking to see. So this is not I don't know of any, I don't know the other workings of businesses. So I don't know if you get a job here, you are set, you are good to go forever. You have your 9 to 5, you have your 401k, you have your pension, you're good. I don't know. But it's not always that way in broadcasting. So know that going in. It's not to scare people away because it's a ton of fun. You get in there, it is a blast. You get to do some cool stuff. But make sure that you have skills that you can apply elsewhere. Computers are a big thing now. I don't know a whole heck of a lot about them. So, that's something where I need to learn. Journalism, if you're able to write, that could get you, that could help you out a whole lot and get you into you're still in the field of media and journalism, but you may not be on TV just yet. You may not be on radio just yet. But don't stop developing the skills that can help you get in the door. You got to be patient. You've got to learn to take rejection, and that criticism that we talked about before. So it's very difficult to break in right now. The radio stations, for the most part, are not live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as they used to, with bodies. And I hate to say that, but it's true. It's just not the way it is anymore. So find one and find one that is local. Wherever you are in the country, find one that is local and that is not corporate, because you're going to have a better shot at getting in the door and meeting with someone. And start with that. Start small and work your way up and pay your dues, and you will find success. You will be rewarded with that, but it's going to take a whole heck of a lot of work and a lot of persistence.
Great advice.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, it's definitely been a pleasure having you share some of your experience with this and talk to us about an industry that, again, is very near and dear to Morgan and I. And we have learned, I think I've even learned a couple of things that I didn't know because I was the TV side. So just hearing some things about radio definitely has just kind of expanded my knowledge base. So thank you for that. And again, we really appreciate you. So again, that's our time for today. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you learned a lot. Please make sure, again, that you check our comment section out and check out the links that we provided for you. And last but not least, if you haven't done so already, shame for shame for shame. Follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And if you haven't downloaded our Way to Be app, please do so. It's available in the Apple and Google stores. So on behalf of Mrs. Morgan Cox and Mr. Shane, what am I about to say? Shane Taylor, Shane Walker. Thank you. I just gave
the
you
whole interview. Had it fine. Who's Shane Taylor?
Yeah. Why does that? Is that an artist? Why does that name sound familiar to me? Who knows?
Everyone always messes up my first name, never the last name. That's impressive. Congratulations.
I've accomplished something today.
You win.
Yay me. Go me. Well, Mr. Shane Walker and Mrs. Morgan Cox, thank you so much for joining it. I'm Annalisa Sawyers for MBRT. We thank everyone for tuning in today, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.